Hi friends, Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Today I wanted to do the Tracie Fox challenge to do an altered notebook. So she has put a challenge in her Facebook group to just take a plain notebook and alter it and come up with something wonderful. And this is the one that I have done and I just love the way it turned out. So it was just a dollar store notebook and I added lace for my closure here. And I have some trim on the side with a pocket on the front, a little side pocket with these cute little cigarette cards on them. And then when you open it up, it's just a plain notebook, but I did add a little tuck spot here to add a card or a tag or whatever bits of ephemera that you want to add there. So here it is, and let's go ahead and I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so this is the notebook that I'm going to start with, and I found it at the dollar store, and I love the kind of the light pink color of it. It kind of has a texture on it a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and cover it up. And then I've picked out some other things that I think I'm going to try to use with it. So one is going to be this bit of lace here, and I found this fabric that I think will go well with this. And then I'm also going to use for sort of the decoration on the front, I want to use a couple of these cards here from Floral Symbology. So I was thinking I would use, let's see, I like this one that's Ambition here. And then we'll have to think about something on the inside. So maybe we'll do something contrasting. I'm not exactly sure. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut out some of these so that I can see what we want to use here. And I know I want to use this Ambition one for the front. Because I like sort of the mix of colors there. And I think maybe for the inside, I'm going to use this Flirtation one because it still has some of the pink on there. And, you know, I think it'll look nice as maybe a little tuck spot on the inside or something like that. So let's see here. Didn't quite get the bottom of that off. Okay, so I think I'm going to use these two. And before I forget, because I always seem to forget, I'm going to go ahead and ink these a bit to kind of just get any white edges off. And give it a little bit of a vintage look. And then I picked out two just pieces of plain cardstock that I thought would sort of match or contrast with this. So for the front, for this Ambition one, I thought this bright orangey yellow would be nice because it matches with this. And then for the inside, I just thought another sort of pink color that might go with that might be pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack glue these on here real quick so that they don't move around when I decide to cut them out, but I am probably going to add some stitching to them. And I'm just eyeballing about 1/4 of an inch border here, approximately, for both of them. And this not only will, you know, add that little bit of extra pop of color, but it's also going to add some sturdiness to, you know, both of them. Okay, and so now I'm going to just cut around the edges here. And once again, I'm just going to eyeball my border. And I always try to do a little bit bigger for the first cut, just in case, you know, I need to cut down. It's easier to cut down than to have to redo the entire thing. So, and this is pretty close, so I'm liking that so far. Okay, so I'm also going to add some stitching here, and I'll probably distress these as well. So, but I'm just going to set these aside for the moment, because what I want to do now is I want to get the fabric ready for the cover here. So I've picked out this fabric, and I think this will go nicely. You know, I just need one piece here. So I think what I'm going to do, I really like the look of torn, sort of frayed edges on my fabric. So I'm gonna see if I can do that on here. And I'm going to have, or try to have, the frayed edge of the fabric go just barely over the top. So you probably won't even be able to see any of the pink, but that's okay. I got this color because I thought if you do end up seeing it, it wasn't a bad color, you know, to be showing or anything. So let's get some of these off here as I make a mess. All right, we'll cut some of those off in a minute. All right, and now I really need to do a little bit of measuring just to be sure I'm getting just about the right size. So this is going to be, there we go. Let's see how I did here. So I just want it to cover the outside of my book here, which it does. I like that. And I'm going to try to make sure this part isn't rolling, and maybe what I'll do is that part, this edge wants to roll a little bit. I'm going to put that towards the back. Oops. Like this. Okay. And we can probably, if we need to, we can trim down a little bit once we get this done. But then this is going to be on my outside of the pocket. But first I want to add a little tie on the inside. So I'm going to go grab some ribbon for that. I found some lace. I think I'm going to use that instead. So I want enough to go around and be able to tie. So let's just make sure I have enough here. Okay. Probably have to trim that down in a minute. So first thing I'm going to do is put that on. And I'm going to try to get that about in the middle. Like I said, we'll trim that down if we need to. And now this book doesn't really stay open, so I can't really open it up to do a lot of this work. So I'm just going to try to do one side and then the end and then the other. We'll see how that goes. So first I'm just going to add some glue here. And I'm going to give that a minute to dry. Okay, I don't think this is quite dry yet, so I'm just going to grab some deli paper here so that I can kind of move on. I'm going to add a little glue to the edge so that when I bring the lace around, it'll stick to the end. And remember, all this is going to be covered with fabric, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. I mean, I want it laying flat, but it's okay if it's not exactly perfect. So, all right, and let's go ahead and let this dry so I'm not sticking to everything when we do the next part. Okay, this is pretty good and dry now. And while that was drying, I went ahead and sewed around my cigarette cards onto my cardstock and distressed the edges so that these will be ready for me to embellish when we're ready to get to that point. So the next thing is going to be the fabric. We're going to put the fabric on here. And I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of stitching or something to the outside because I want to give it a little bit of stability. So this is just a, just a light cotton fabric, and I want to be sure I've reinforced it a little bit. So I've used some dark thread around here, but I think on here I want to use some lighter thread. So all I'm going to do is probably do a zigzag stitch all around the entire outside of this fabric. So I'll be right back when I do that. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but I've stitched around the outside there, just a big zigzag stitch to just give it a little bit of stability. So I think we're going to be good to go. So I'm going to decide which side I want to be my front here. And I am going to go ahead and situate it kind of where I think I want it first before I put any glue down, because I want to make sure I've got enough on the front and the back to cover everything completely. So this, I think, looks pretty good. I should probably check the top a bit. Oh. Okay, and then I'm just going to put my 3-in-1 Beacon 3-in-1 glue all around the edge here. And before I lay this down, I am going to kind of spread it out with my finger just to make sure I'm sort of covered most of the places that I want to be sure are covered. So like especially around the edges, and just kind of knock off some of the beads of glue that are there so that hopefully they won't show through on my fabric. And then I'm just going to lay that down. And I love the way that's looking so far. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the edge. And this doesn't have, I think I want it kind of tight to the notebook. Since this notebook doesn't really stay open by itself anyway, we can go ahead and put this right on the edge there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And just kind of pull that up and make sure that's got a nice stick on it there. And then we're going to do the same with the back. I have loved seeing all of the different ones that people are doing. It's been so inspiring to even just look around the house for, notebooks that I haven't really used. Probably mostly because they're not inspiring with nothing on them. So it's been cool to see what everybody's been doing with them, making me want to do more and more of them. Okay, and now I'm just laying this out and kind of spreading it down a little. And I'm trying to uncurl that little edge that seems to want to curl over there. But there is our front. There's our cover, I should say. And then I'm going to add my Ambition cigarette card right to the middle, I think. I like the way that would look. And then the other one, I think I'm going to use just on the inside as a little tuck spot here. Apologies, we are having flood warnings here, and so my phone just totally stopped working. But since this edge inside here is rounded, I'm going to just see if I can round this corner a bit so that when I glue it down as a tuck spot, it'll just kind of match up in the corner, which that'll work perfectly. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put that one down, and I'm going to use my glitter glue for this. It's easier, like it does a nice little bead better, I think. It's not as bulky as the Fabrifix. So you can get a nice little edge piece there. And now I'm gonna have to kind of hold this open just a little to get this on. Whoops. And I'm gonna, whoops, my goodness, it wants to keep moving around on me. So let me hold that a minute. And we'll just hold this down a second to make sure that it's nice and glued on before we do the front piece. And I like my little tattered edges there. There we go. And now I was thinking that it might be fun to add maybe a torn book page to this or something. Let's see. I always have one hanging around. I may have torn off too much of that one. Try that again. I think that might be kind of fun with a book page behind it. So let me see if I can just tear a little bit off to leave some of the words around the edge. Let me see. I like that edge. No, I think I've torn off too much. Let me see if I can do maybe something that is, it's going to be almost underneath the whole thing, isn't it? I kind of like having a book page there. Let me see if I can rip one better than I did before. That front piece is so big, it might just be that it's just going to be too much. I don't know. Actually, I think I have my little homemade paper tear. See if I can get a nice little tear on there. Let's see if I can do this side as close to the edge as I can. Let's see how that does. Ooh, that's nice. So let me see, I have to go about right there. And let's see how that does. I kind of like that. And what I might do as well then, since I'm doing this, is we'll leave a little side pocket here for a little note card or something to go in there. Let me get a little ink on it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my glitter glue, and we'll just do 3 sides of this. On here. And then we'll glue that down. Whoops, wrong lid. We'll glue this whole thing down on here with my Fabri-Tac. Things always seem to change midstream for me. Is anybody else like that? But I think honestly, that's half the fun, right? Is being able to just kind of go with the flow and do what inspires you in the moment. Okay, just gonna hold that down for a minute. And then this is gonna be my little tie on the side. Let's see if we need to just trim that down a bit while that glue dries. I think it could definitely be trimmed down. And I'm just gonna do some diagonal cuts there. Okay. And now I think it's done, except for a little note card to go in the side there, because of course you have to know that there's a note card in there. So I will be right back with that. Okay, so I decided to take a little postcard and add another floral symbology tag to it that I printed out at about 50% of what it comes in the kit. So I just went ahead and I'm sliding that right in there, and I love the way that looks. And the other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to add some of this trim to it. So what I think I'm just going to do very simply, I'm going to cut a piece that will fit across the top here, or I'm sorry, across the side. And I think I'm just going to glue that down. I think that adds a nice little flair to it. And I'm just adding one bead of glue. Actually, I may do a little bit bigger bead just to be sure that I have it all actually tacked down there. And you guessed it, we got to let that dry a minute, but I kind of like the way that adds a little bit of fun to it. Okay, and we'll do a quick look once it's dry. I'll be right back. Okay, and here's my finished altered notebook. I really like the way it turned out. So we have a card on the front here with a little note tag that's a postcard that you can slip right in there with the tag coming out there. And then when you open it up, there is a little tuck spot to be able to add a tag or a note card right into there. And that is it. You can tie it up here with this lace. And there you have it. Thanks to Tracie Fox for this wonderful challenge. It's been so much fun doing. I've had a great time. I'm inspired to do more. So I hope that you'll go out there and make one of your own. This was so much fun. And if you do, please tag me so that I can see that you've done it. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. So long.